I believe that these two technologies, blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, will close the wealth gap that exists.
Henry, here will take some notes in this next segment as we break it all down for you right now.
Let's bring in crypto blockchain plug founder Naja Roberts to explain all this to us. Good morning. So you are an expert in this field, and you actually even have a camp to teach kids how to be financially literate in this new crypto world. So that's great. You can speak to us like those children.
Yeah. Hey, y'all, it's your girl Naja Roberts, aka Young Harriet, and I am super excited today because I have a question to ask. Are you confused about cryptocurrency and don't know where to start? Well, join me, Naja Roberts, the queen of crypto, for my special Crypto Essentials workshop. It's going to be on Saturday, February 5th in San Pedro, California. But don't worry if you can't make it. We're going to allow you to come in on a virtual broadcast. You get a copy of my exclusive workbook and some other surprises. You don't want to miss this event, family. Trust me. Spaces are limited, but we're going to be socially distancing so you don't have to worry. And if you're at your house, you don't have to worry about that anyway. But I want you to register early, so I want to see you there. Have an incredible rest of your day. Peace and blessings.
Why am I qualified to talk to you about Bitcoin, wallets, and storages? The main reason is I paid my tuition in this space.
Very beginning, which is where we are. People look at the price today being somewhere around $8,000, and they say, hey, that's out of my reach. Well, you know what? It's really going to be out of your reach when it's 100,000 or 200,000. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to On the Block. We have an incredible show in store for you today. I'm really excited to have you all here today. Before we get going, before we get started, I'm going to make some adjustments too. But I want you all to please look at the screen and make sure that you all are reaching out to our Tonga effort. As you see on the screen, we have friends that are in the region of Tonga. And as you all know, last week, they were hit with, there was an earthquake, some lava, there were ash that has fallen on their country, on their kingdom, and they're in peril. And so what we wanted to do is support their region. And we have a gentleman that has been working very closely with us on different fronts, but he's made some things possible to drop some barrels. So they've already raised enough Bitcoin to get the first part of the mission completed. And right now they're in the second part of the mission, and any funds donated will go directly to making sure that food and water and communication is open there for the people of Tonga. We've talked with one of the presidents in the past in some of our rooms on Clubhouse, and so we know well what he was trying to do for his community. And so we hope that everybody can, any little bit helps, even if you don't have monetary donations, if you can reach out to the gentleman that has put this whole thing together. And again, at the bottom of the screen, it's airliftairways.com, but you can reach out to him and he can tell you some things that you may be able to do to help. And so we want to make sure that our efforts are really going in the right direction with what the people really, really, really need. And communication is key right now, based on all the things that are transpiring. So we want to make sure that we are helping that effort. So with that, again, I say thank you in advance for supporting the Tonga efforts to help that community of people really get themselves back where they need to be. So welcome to On the Block. and we have a phenomenal guest here today. She woke up early this morning in her country. She's going to tell us where she is. And we normally don't have a broadcast this late, but we definitely wanted to accommodate this young lady because she's doing some incredible things in the space. She's got an incredible company. She's got an incredible story. I have been watching her because there's some things that she's doing with her company where she is that I know that we should eventually be able to do over here in the United States, and hopefully she'll have some pointers for us over here. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the fabulous Miss Tamar. And she's going to tell us a little bit about herself, and then we're going to have her tell us about her fabulous company that she is the co-founder, and that is SolidBlock. So welcome. How are you today?
I am great, Najah. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for, making it a little later than usual.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Well, thank you. So what time is it and where are you? Let's start off there so they know where you're calling from.
Yeah, I'm in Tel Aviv, Israel, and I usually actually don't mind waking up earlier. Right now it's 6 a.m., but I had I did a Stanford seminar that I taught today actually at 4, a little bit after 4 a.m.
Wow.
So I asked you guys to move it to a little later.
Okay.
It wasn't. I do wake up early. It's one of my things I really like to. And before COVID, I used to wake up at 5 a.m. And then I had COVID, and that kind of put me out of commission. That was, the Delta version of it, the more brutal one. And then, I had to sleep 2 or 3 times the usual. And so now I'm back and strong and waking up early. I really believe in that. But I love what you're doing too. And I've been following you as well. And you're such a powerful speaker and advocate for the space. I'm super excited about what you're doing.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you. And life of an entrepreneur is not all peaches and cream. We definitely have to get up early and do things that we normally wouldn't. I think one of my favorite quotes in business is, I will do today what others won't so that I can do tomorrow what others can't. And that means waking up and teaching the class at Stanford at 4 a.m. because Stanford is here in California as well, right? So, so yes, thank you for that, and thank you for being a beacon of light, not just as a businesswoman, but as a woman entrepreneur as well. So, Tel Aviv, wow. So again, welcome and thank you for gracing us with your time.
Thank you so much. So, what do you want to know?
So tell us a little bit about how you grew up, your education, how you got into the tech space, and then we'll talk about the business a little bit more.
Cool. So it's a running joke for me that I was born in one country, which about 10 years or 7 years later became another country. And now it's yet a different country, which is also in a constant state of peril nowadays. And so the place where I grew up was Crimea, which used to be in the Soviet Union. Then it was Ukraine, and now it's a disputed territory governed by Russia. So that's basically my life story. And I remember early days when I would stand in line. I was living with my grandparents because that's usually what happened back then. Your parents would go out and work, and you stay with your grandparents. And I would go and stand in these long lines to buy essentials like butter and milk and things like that, right? All that stuff I no longer consume as a vegan. But back then, that's how it was. And then you'd go out and you'd buy, as I was older in school, I would go out and buy ice cream after school. And then I'd noticed that these pieces of paper that we were using kept adding more zeros. And at some point, you just couldn't count them. So you take a pencil and then you kind of cross out the zeros so you know how much money you have. It's crazy, right? America hasn't experienced that level of inflation. Even though the inflation right now is pretty noticeable, I think, by anyone, despite what the government says. But that's that kind of put me in the frame of mind to what I'm doing today, right? I studied economics, I studied money, I worked in finance, I worked on Wall Street, and I worked, before I moved to Israel, and worked here in M&A and, mergers and acquisitions, private equity, kind of financial structuring. So my career was in finance. And then I arrived to blockchain through having an agency, a marketing agency of my own, and employees all over the world. And it was so excruciating to use banks and for payments. And, it cost so much. It would take so long. You'd never know if they get the money, especially in like third world countries like in India. And, it was just so bad. And I would use PayPal. It was a little expensive, and MoneyGram is just basically walking to a shop and giving somebody money to send. It's just like so horrible. So then I discovered Bitcoin, or, I heard about Bitcoin before, but I worked in like a highly regulated space. So I wasn't really investing in Bitcoin up until that point. So then it kind of, my eyes opened up, and after I made my first transaction, and I was like, wow, why, where have I been living under a rock? Like, what's wrong with me? Literally. And if people are hearing about Bitcoin today, I'm probably feeling the same way, So, and now you have many more resources. You have stable coins, for example. So we pay a lot of our vendors with stable coins, and we're getting investments in stable coins, and it's just fantastic. It's night and day, So in terms of payments. So that's basically my story. I'm very passionate about real estate as a basic asset class that everybody should own to kind of base their portfolio on, but it's very illiquid. So it's dangerous and risky for individuals to own a lot of real estate, especially if they need liquidity. So we wanted to pair the two, and that's how SolidBlock was born.
All right. Well, I'm super interested. Again, I've been watching a couple of your moves, your raises, your seed funds, and some of those things. But I want to back up, because you said a couple of things that I wanted to see if you wouldn't mind elaborating on, just so people can really understand. You said when you first were introduced to Bitcoin, you were in a very regulated type of industry, which we knew was finance, but really what was kind of the thing that kept you from taking a look at and exploring Bitcoin?
So I was at that point, so I guess in the early 2000s, I was working in financial engineering. So I would structure pension fund products, like very boring traditional products that you put it together in an index, stick it in a stock exchange, and look at the risk level, and then sell it back to private banks. So they will put it as a part of your pension funds or whatever, baskets and stuff like that. So obviously crypto was not on the radar there at all. We were exposed to real estate as a private public REIT type of product, where big managed funds. So I was working in that industry. And as an entrepreneur, I was actually, my early startups were in kind of social productivity and things like that. And later I went into fintech, and actually I started hearing about blockchain, maybe 2016, something like that, when I was in the loan space, kind of lending, and people were saying, and just because everything that touched finance back then, they would say, why aren't you doing this on the blockchain? So then that's how I actually looked at Bitcoin, at first. And I was like, wow, I can use that to pay my team globally, So but why you're not exposed to Bitcoin? I think people it was more of like something that people were exploring. It wasn't in the media back then as kind of like a viable option. I think that started maybe in like 2019, when institutions started getting and buying Bitcoin, and then everybody was, you were able to then invest through your, even through your IRA or pension fund. That's, by the way, not available in Israel in any way, shape, or form. But that's when it became more widespread.
So really quickly, before we go into the next part, as far as where you live now, how open are people to Bitcoin, accepting Bitcoin? Are you able to go to your local grocery store and use Bitcoin? What does that look like?
So at some point, a few years ago, Tel Aviv was, I think, number one place where you could use cryptocurrency. So now you have probably better solutions for payment than Bitcoin, and you have payment applications, and a lot of companies are getting into it. Even Coinbase has a good solution for that. So in our country in general, a lot of larger vendors will accept crypto. Like if you, let's say, maybe you want to buy a home, there are some people who would accept cryptocurrency, but you can definitely not use it at a grocery store. So we have a really vibrant crypto and blockchain community. At some point, we were also number one in blockchain startups in the world, maybe after the Silicon Valley or maybe before. So the tech here, and especially security applications, most successful security applications, cybersecurity applications in the blockchain crypto space, they come from Israel.
Yes.
So, but in terms of crypto acceptance, everybody knows, and we were joking the other day, we have a lot of WhatsApp groups for parents for school and kindergarten and everything. And there was a running joke yesterday when the teacher said, bring a hat you can hold. And nobody knew what that meant. So one of the parents was like, well, that probably means don't bring an NFT of a hat. Just bring a real hat. And thankfully, I had a hat which actually said non-fungible human. So I sent my kid with that hat, and I was like, "That's the one you're gonna take,"
So, that is a good joke.
Yeah, everybody knows what Bitcoin is. Everybody knows what NFT is. People are very, very knowledgeable. Most people, I think, at this point, anybody under 30 has a wallet. I think the majority of my younger friends, and I mean, most of my friends are over 30, but anybody I talk to, like students and bar, if I'm sitting at a bar and I'm chatting with a bartender, he has Bitcoin or she has Bitcoin. Like it's a no-brainer.
So you know what? I know we're here to talk about SolidBlock and some of the phenomenal things that you have going. Right. I just have to ask one more question because you said almost everybody knows, and we come from a community where we're just beginning to educate the masses on what it is, or what it's all about. And you see the price drop. You've seen the price drop. We say Bitcoin is on sale. From where you sit, through your eyes, what do you feel? Do you feel like there's a threat on the price of Bitcoin, that Bitcoin may crash and never come back? Because you see it in use, you see everybody around you with it, as opposed to we see few and far between that have it. What are your thoughts, just out of curiosity, based on the usage?
Right. So first of all, it's an asset, right? Bitcoin is an asset, and there's so many assets that came out in the market, and like every 10 years you see so many different assets, like mutual funds, hedge funds. All of a sudden you have a new kid on the block. And for me as a finance person, Bitcoin is nothing different than that. And also I get unfazed by the movements of the market. Things go up, things go down, and you gotta, it depends on how you look at it. If you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you're just kind of buying. They're saying in our industry, they're saying buy the dip, but you're just kind of buying Bitcoin, keep buying it and buying it. If if you are more of a trader, there's obviously day traders that they're happy, right? There's lots of volatility. I am neither of those, but I, buy low, sell high type of person. Every once in a while I'll make a transaction and I wait until the lowest point. I don't know if it has passed the lowest point yet. By the way, none of this is an investment advice. I'm not an investment advisor.
Yes.
So, but I'm unfazed by the reduction because it will always happen. That's the point in Bitcoin, right? However, Bitcoin, as opposed to other asset classes, has an inherent mechanism of an increase, because the supply of Bitcoin is not increased, is increasing at a slower pace, right? Because of the way it's set up. And I am unfazed by the reduction. There's no way it will reduce to zero because so many institutions are invested now in the Bitcoin. That's what I'm saying. 2019 was a turning point when institutions started getting in. Once they're in, that, it's it. We won. It's in there. It's going mainstream.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now you've heard it from all the way around the world from Yael, that she's unfazed, and we say that all the time. We're totally unfazed at the price, and so I appreciate you just sharing that. So let's talk about SolidBlock. SolidBlock, you are the co-founder. Tell us what SolidBlock is.
So SolidBlock was born out of a necessity of putting real assets on the blockchain. There are many industries that have experienced the revolution of finance and all kinds of improvements of technology. The real estate has stayed behind. Yes, yet real estate is the most basic asset class, right? Before rushing and buying Bitcoin, I always say about like portfolio diversification, right? And also another thing that I read, and I really like a quote, if your portfolio doesn't let you sleep at night, you have to rearrange your portfolio, right? So, and also as a finance person, for me, it's basically always a balance, and real estate is a base. You got to make sure that you have this collateral that you can borrow against, that you can make sure that the value doesn't disappear. So, but yet most people are not able to access this asset class. And by the way, I saw that you also were on a show with Hill Harper of the Black Wall Street, and then I've spoken to him recently as well on my podcast. And I love the fact that we are increasing the access to Bitcoin for every single community. But yet there's so many communities that are unbanked right now. So many people are unbanked or underbanked in the US or outside the US. There you go. Not unbanked by choice, right? Unbanked by just circumstance.
Yes, absolutely right. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. So that's where we are. We want to actually be our own bank. Right. So we want to be our own bank. We want to own real estate of different kinds, a create portfolio. We want to own other asset classes, and not everything is on the blockchain yet. Right. So, and the ownership is difficult. Purchase is difficult. It requires a lot of time, a lot of money. And once you buy these assets, they're not liquid. Like you're just stuck there for 5 to 7 years. And one of the best things about Bitcoin and other crypto is that it's super liquid. So we've created a mechanism for liquidity for these real world assets.
That is really, really awesome. And so people really, really understand the magnitude of what you all have created. Can you walk us through a situation with a particular piece of property that you've dealt with recently, that regular, everyday, that wouldn't have been possible, let's just even say 7 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. So, all of us right now, if we want to go invest in real estate, you can buy a house if you have enough money. And if you want to invest a little bit of money, you usually would put it in a public REIT on a stock exchange, which doesn't really create a huge growth, right? So a REIT is a real estate investment trust. And so for us, we also, you advocate here for the cause for the Republic of Tonga. And we also view real estate in some ways as an outlet for good as well, right? So a lot of the projects that we're doing are in the space that's called ESG, environmental, social, and governance. So, real estate that's good for the environment. We have zero impact hospitality facilities. We have also social factors like the detox centers in Florida, which is basically medical facilities for people with addictions. And unfortunately, and especially because of the COVID pandemic and the drug and the opioid epidemic as well. These have become essential and they're only growing, right? So, and it's literally, you don't have enough beds in America. So that, I really like that project, that tokenization, is that individuals not only can benefit from a very, very stable asset because it has a rental contract with an operator that's government supported, right? So the funds are there, and it's a 10-year lease. So it's a very stable property, but also you're able to support this industry, right? Support the fight against drugs and alcohol. So I really like that. I also really like affordable and workforce housing projects, and we actually have one coming up in California. So I'm super, super excited about that. And then we have a few projects coming up also where we'll give individuals in the affordable and workforce housing and a possibility to also buy into the project in which they live.
And that's exactly what I was going to ask you. So the projects that come forward, how would someone go about submitting a project to SolidBlock to see about funding? Are they only in-house projects, or are you taking ideas? How does that process work?
That's a great question, Najah. So this is a highly regulated and compliance space. So for now, most of the projects that we're taking are actually in-house. We're partnering with the real estate owners and a partnership. So we are actually issuing our own security, and that's because of regulation. Otherwise, there is a big incompatibility with broker dealers and the crypto space. So, we looked into partnering with broker dealers, but and that would, sometimes prohibit us from accepting cryptocurrency, right? And we can't do that. So we're, we actually do have a mechanism through which any project can use our technology, right? You can issue your own security. I don't know if, most real estate owners, big sponsors, they know that there is a mechanism that the U.S. government created back in 2012 where you can have your own private offering, and we can support you. We can give you the technology. We can give you the compliance advice. We can give you the coverage. We can give you everything. You do have to do your own marketing because of the regulation and compliance. We're not allowed to market or fundraise, right? So you do have to do your own fundraising. But in any case, I would say any sponsor, any entrepreneur out there knows that you can't have somebody else raise money for you, right? It got to be you, because people invest in you, your track record, your project, and everything else. There are placement agents like broker dealers and stuff like that for commercial assets, but they take a long time and they take a lot of money. So we provide the technology that can put any asset as a smart contract, as a smart contract on the blockchain, and that later it can be traded on an exchange.
Absolutely. And so when I took a look at your company a couple of months ago, actually, probably right around August of last year, I really started taking a serious look because there were some projects I was thinking about doing. I was trying to figure out why you chose the stable coin that you're currently using. Can you tell us why a stable coin as opposed to any of the other coins that were available, specifically Bitcoin?
So we actually do accept funds in Bitcoin and Ethereum and also DAI. We have a few other coins and a few other platforms that we're partnering with. And so that's we're trying to make it as accessible as possible to anyone who wants to invest, right? I guess that's the best answer I can give. Fiat, of course, also, people who want to do dollars can also invest.
Right. And so I guess I thought, I don't know and why I thought that, because I saw the stable coin that you were utilizing, and I thought that maybe folks just had to invest. They had to be, well, first of all, they don't have to be accredited investors. And that's one of the big things, one of the perks, right, in dealing with some of the projects. They don't need to be accredited.
We have on our website, we do have a requirement on the website to invest as an accredited investor. But we always wanted to allow retail level investors to invest. And so we created partnerships with crowdfunding platforms, right?
Okay.
So now, if for certain projects, we try to put them in on a crowdfunding platform. so that when a non-accredited investor comes into our website, we'll redirect them to the same project on a crowdfunding platform. That's basically for regulation purposes, right? We want to stay alive.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So to date, what would you say? And I know that all your projects you're very, very proud about. I know you just spoke about, the ability to really be able to help with some of the causes that are happening around the world, including, of course, our opioid issue that we have here. But what is one of the projects that you're most proud of? Maybe some obstacles or hurdles that you had to overcome, be it there in Tel Aviv or here in the United States? Like, which one are you most proud of?
So we've done one of the first projects in the industry, the Aspen coin, and so I think I'm very proud of being the first, right? So we did the first smart contract. There's a lot of work that's been done, that's been put into it to create something. It's a new standard. Why was it a new standard? Because up until then, basically the smart contracts on Ethereum, for example, for transfer of assets or money, were not regulated, right? So you can want to transfer a currency to someone, great. Here you go, wallet to wallet or on an exchange. But in our industry, it has to be compliant. You have to have compliance built in. You have to make sure that individuals went through KYC and AML. And I think it's not a bad idea in general to at least do AML. KYC is more controversial, but just making sure that it's not used for the money you're receiving has not been used for money laundering. Right. So we were the first entity to create a smart contract that actually had that compliance built in, right? So we had two major accounting firms at that time, EY and KPMG, audit the smart contract. And then it was kind of morphed into something else by different companies in the space. And then now, we're continuously making improvements to it as well to create a certain standard.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yep, I'm excited about, and I saw some of the challenges and just kind of read up on some of the things that you were doing with that project, and everything that you've been doing. I've been watching it because for the last year, I will say it hasn't been quite a year, but I've had something in my mind that I've envisioned being able to tokenize real estate properties across the United States. To really help bring education and different things to our community, and really just trying to figure out what company to go with, which way to really approach this, how to do this, and really knock it out of the park. And I like the fact that you said being first is a good thing. I kind of wanted to see somebody do it a time or two. And so looking at some of your projects and understanding and knowing that you all have been very, very successful in what you do, I was ready to pull the trigger. And then they started talking to me about DAOs. And so how do DAOs play a part in anything that you're able to do with SolidBlock, or do they not?
Yeah, so DAO, it's a very interesting question, Najah, because we are looking at decentralizing SolidBlock. That's our next move. And I was looking into DAOs extensively to see if this is something appropriate for us. And I came to a conclusion that I want to use a different mechanism. But DAOs are very useful. It's basically an evolution of a company or a community in a decentralized network. DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, just basically means that we have blockchain mechanism for governance in an organization. It could either be a company or it could be a community that will together collectively decide on how this community will develop, what kind of technology, or how assets will be invested. So in our space, and you asked me questions earlier, how can assets get onto SolidBlock? Well, I'm not happy about having to approve every asset internally at SolidBlock. It's very time consuming. And also, are we the biggest expert out there in real estate? Probably not. We know a lot about real estate, but there are smarter people than us, especially collectively. There's collective wisdom of big real estate industry out there, right? So how do we harness the power of that industry? So our next step is to decentralize SolidBlock, to decentralize the system of selecting assets and the governance, so that when assets come to us, we'll pitch them to a network of validators, which will actually validate a transaction by investing in it. So basically a collective underwriting process, a decentralized underwriting process. We've created an updated consensus mechanism on top of a proof of stake network. We call it the proof of asset, which is based not only on the amount of assets you own, because of course we know that that would be unjust, allowing only the rich get richer, but also you'll be able to the higher level of your expertise, meaning if you taught a class or if you brought in community, if you have a big community that you brought with you, you obviously are an expert, and you'll be able to vote and see assets before anyone else on the system. And the more you invested in a specific asset class, the more expertise you're able to gather. So all of these principles will basically govern our organization. It's not going to necessarily be a DAO, because a DAO is a certain type of a decentralized community, and ours is going to be based on that permissioned blockchain layer. So a little bit differently, but in the same spirit, right? And I think the DAOs are moving totally in the right direction. You need total different way of influencing organizations than the centralized way and hierarchical way that they are today. And we need to be moving into a more just and inclusive world.
Yes, yes. And that sounds absolutely incredible. I was going to ask you, what can we look forward to seeing from SolidBlock next? But you've already let us know you're moving in a decentralized way.
Yeah. On top of this big portfolio that we're generating, right? On top of this curated portfolio, right? Where we're adding a stable coin. We're adding an index, first of all, an index of properties, kind of like an S&P 500 of the best properties out there. And derivatives of that could be different stable coins. And imagine a possibility in which your stable coin is not going down in value with US dollar, right? To which it's been pegged. But instead, if it's pegged to a real estate index that's going up in value all the time.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting. So everybody needs to stay tuned, check out some things that SolidBlock has in store for 2022. And as a co-founder, a woman co-founder, how difficult has it been in this fintech space with this company really getting people, and I don't want to say to take you seriously, but to really give you your just due for what you have created, which is absolutely phenomenal. Have you seen any pushback from people that just really want to dismiss the fact that you are a co-founder of a very successful blockchain company at this point?
So Naja, it's very interesting. I know the statistics, and I know that women co-founders or women-led startups are still getting much less funding. It used to be like 3%, and I think women of color specifically are getting less than 1% of funding. So it's I don't know whether it's systemic kind of injustice, or more it's more of just kind of a network, like a network effect, right? Unfortunately, in the beginning, the way our society was set up, the investors specifically come from the male gender, right? And I think it's just more natural in terms of a network that men network with men, women network better with women. It's just how things are. And so that's why it's super important for us, once we do get to the top, bring more women in, right? Mm-hmm. So, and keep advocating. I don't know necessarily if there is a discrimination in place, at least in the gender space, within the race or, sexual orientation, other things, it might be different. But my experience as being a woman has been pretty positive. in terms of in this industry, people pay attention and people know who I am. So that's been helpful. And also they judge by capability and the ability. So for me, the experience has been positive. I know that I've probably gotten much less exposure because introductions are more rare. Like I said, men tend to gravitate in networking towards men. So I think every problem, I look at it more of a place where we need to find a solution, right? So that's kind of my outlook. And the solution is out there, and I can see it. And I definitely want to be a part of it. So, we have created an organization called Women in Block to help women get exposure through speaking roles, right? That's one of the places where I'm just outraged, when I see I call it a manel, like a panel with all men. Couldn't they find a woman? And then you know what they do? They're like, okay, we got to bring some women in. So let's just do a women's panel. Let's stick all these poor 6 women on just one panel.
Okay. I'm going to sit on one of those in about 2 weeks. That's why I'm laughing, because they stuck us on one panel and they're like, okay, here you go. Shut up. There you go.
So, and that's one of the ways that women get exposure, so we're working to put, and I call out every conference, that I see those things. I'm like, you guys got to do better. Like, you got to find them. It's maybe more difficult, but you got to do better. And that's one of the ways that women get exposure. So that's one of my goals. I have a database in which you're of course in the database with blockchain and crypto women speakers. So that's the role that I think we all should play as women, is just advocate fiercely for each other in the industry. And that will help us kind of bring more equality into the space.
Definitely, I agree with you. I think that neither one of us need to be physically together at a conference when we see these things going on, because they're going to be in trouble. In fact, Bitcoin 2022 in Miami, 2021 in Miami last year, they were like, oh my goodness, she is about to throw a tantrum in here. I said, if I see another lady walk past me with a bathing suit on and a lampshade, we're going to have problems. Because if those are the only women that you can find to do anything at this conference, they will look at me and be like, oh my goodness, she's about to just really blow this whole play. I was so angry at Bitcoin 2021 because I really feel like there were so many women they could have gotten, and they just didn't. And then you go and hire all these women and they're walking around looking like floozies. That is not our representation. We are brains and not all bodies. And so anyway, so that's one of the reasons why we every Tuesday and Thursday really try to recognize women in the space, to just make sure that people's names and faces and stories really get heard in this space. And so I want to thank you for what you're doing and for standing up and the organization that you created to bring awareness to women. It is much, much appreciated. And I don't know if we have any questions out there, but I know that we are nearing probably a little bit, not close to the hour, but we want to definitely be in respect of your time. I know you've been talking and teaching since probably about 2 hours before this, so we want to respect that. If there are any questions, the ladies can pop them up for us in the chat. But in the meantime, Maya asked, does the stock market's volatility affect SolidBlock? So I guess that's a great question. Thank you, Maya.
Thanks, Maya. So stock market volatility affects just different financial ability of individuals, I guess, to invest, right? And maybe look for alternative asset class, right? So as I mentioned earlier, one of my models for portfolio stability and risk, and how much risk you can tolerate personally is, can you sleep at night, or do you have to wake up every 15 minutes and check the Bitcoin price, or stock market price? I remember that time actually when I, during early COVID, and everybody was like, which one is going to be? Who's going to come up with a vaccine? So you kind of like wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, what is it going to be? So, at the end of the day, SolidBlock is here to provide individuals with this outlet to make good money, but keep to a good and stable asset class. You can cash out from the stock market and put money in liquid real estate, or you can cash out of crypto and put money into liquid real estate. On top of that, you can also collateralize your liquid real estate, collateralize your tokens, and get loans. You can, create your indices, your portfolios, and so on. So I would guess, also having economics background, I would guess that there will be a correlation between stock market volatility and how people will view and invest in liquid real estate in that sense. And the same with crypto volatility, right? So especially during the crypto volatility, you see a lot of income being generated, and especially income by institutions that's being generated, from buying and selling. So you have to put that income somewhere. And stable coins are not good enough, in my opinion, because they're just going down. People are excited about staking stable coins, and that's, it's great that you're going to earn 8% on a US dollar backed, but US dollar is losing value of 7 to 8% a year. So you're right about at zero, which is good. It's better than minus 7%, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, Yael Tamar, you have been incredible today. And again, we thank you for coming on to our session called On the Block and talking to us about your fabulous company. And I'm looking forward to working with you and taking a look at some of the things that we may be able to do as a collaborative. And just really, really excited. Are there any last words? How do people find you? How do they find your company? Let us know.
We're everywhere. We're SolidBlock, SolidBlockCO.co, and on any social media. So happy to chat with you guys. I'm at Yael Tamar on Twitter and on Telegram. So just reach out and I'll be happy to talk to anyone.
All right. Well, again, thank you for that. And thank you for sharing an hour with us today. We really, really appreciate you and wish you the best. And again, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with the reception that you get here from folks on the block, just really looking to diversify and do some different things in the space. Because I think your company is incredible. And I would recommend anyone that is looking at some solid things to do in the space to take a look at what SolidBlock has to offer. And with that, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in today. Again, to Yael, thank you. And you have an incredible rest of your day. Peace and blessings to you. I appreciate you. All right.
I believe that these two technologies, blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, will close the wealth gap that exists.
And ready here to take some notes in this next segment as we break it all down for you right now.
Let's bring in crypto blockchain plug founder Naja Roberts to explain all this to us. Good morning. So you are an expert in this field, and you actually even have a camp to teach kids how to be financially literate in this new crypto world. So that's great. You can speak to us like those children.
Yeah. Hey, y'all, it's your girl Naja Roberts, aka Young Harriet, and I am super excited today because I have a question to ask. Are you confused about cryptocurrency and don't know where to start? Well, join me, Naja Roberts, the queen of crypto, for my special Crypto Essentials workshop. It's going to be on Saturday, February 5th in San Pedro, California. But don't worry if you can't make it. We're going to allow you to come in on a virtual broadcast. You get a copy of my exclusive workbook and some other surprises. You don't want to miss this event, family. Trust me. Spaces are limited, But we're going to be socially distancing so you don't have to worry. And if you're at your house, you don't have to worry about that anyway. But I want you to register early. So I want to see you there. Have an incredible rest of your day. Peace and blessings.
Why am I qualified to talk to you about Bitcoin, wallets, and storages? The main reason is I paid my tuition in this space.
Very beginning, which is where we are. People look at the price today being somewhere around $8,000 and they say, hey, that's out of my reach. Well, you know what? It's really going to be out of your reach when it's 100,000 or 200,000.